What's up, Norberg Nation? How's it going? So today's video, we are going to be reviewing one of your guys' videos submitted by Robert, and I'm not gonna butcher your last name. I don't know how to say it, but he was the winner of my 10K subscriber giveaway, and today we are going to be reviewing his video. His race takes place at Moss Sport Karting. It's a track that I've actually been to. I've never been able to drive. It's an unbelievably awesome track, the elevation changes and everything. I hope I get to drive it one day, but he raced there for this race that he wants me to review, and he's in the LO206 class. It's not a class that I have a lot of experience racing in, but I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I can pick up and hopefully help you out and make you a faster driver. So enough of that, let's get started with this race review. So the first thing that I noticed even before they pulled up into the lines was that there wasn't a lot of tire scrubbing. I know in LO206 it's not necessarily that big of a deal to scrub your tires in that much, but definitely it wouldn't have hurt to scrub your tires in a little bit more so you have a little bit more pace in these opening laps. Not the best start on the outside, but in that corner there's not a lot of space you can go. He holds that line really well, goes to the inside there. Not a lot you can do. I don't really see a lot wrong with that start. When you're on the outside, obviously you don't want to crash, and so there's a few instances where it got a little hairy, but he was able to stay out of it. Really not a lot wrong with that start. As we're heading through this section here, we're getting a good run on the 480. Definitely got a little bit more speed heading down this hill, and I think right now, even though he says to push, I think this is the best opportunity that we should get to pass. Those opening laps are really laps that you need to be, going forward, especially if you're not in like top 3 positions. You need to be making up spots because it's the moment where everybody's the closest, they're the most bunched up, and that's an opportunity you might not get back later in the run. And that's something we kind of see later on in this race here. But again, we get a good, run on the 480, kind of make a little mistake there, look like we locked up in the braking zone, get over the curb, and on the first couple laps we did a really good job through that second section there, those turns 2 and 3. We're getting over the curb and everything. As the race went on, we stopped doing that, and that's where we started seeing a lot of time being lost. And again, there's these mistakes that we make a little bit when we're behind drivers. You saw the 480 kind of check up in the bowl there, and when he checked up, that caused us to get off the throttle, and in this class where it is such a momentum class, we ended up losing about 3/10 right there. So that was just a little mistake that we made there, but overall, not a terrible start. Probably should have taken a few more opportunities than we could have. Overdrove that right-hander a little bit there, kind of went in a little bit faster than we should have, but for the most part, not a bad opening lap. So drivers in front of you are starting to race a little bit here, starting to go side by side, and right here we make a little bit of a mistake in trying to get over that curb. We didn't really have the position in that instance. When you see drivers get like that, it's sometimes better to recognize that you don't have the position and kind of tuck back in, because instead of obviously making that pass and gaining 1 spot, we ended up losing 2 or 3 more, and it's just because we lost all that momentum going down that long straightaway. And again, that's some pass that you can probably make in a faster 2-stroke class, and even you have to be on the higher end of the 2-stroke classes to make a pass like that, just because of the momentum that it takes to get by somebody in that situation. But definitely on a class like this with the lower horsepower, and you don't have the momentum leading onto a long straightaway, you end up just getting freight trained like what happened, and that ends up hurting you quite a bit. Again, that's that right-hander that I was talking about. When you miss that curb, this lap it wasn't so bad, but there's other laps where when you miss that curb, it tends to throw you out a little bit too wide in the left-hander, and then when you go to make that right down that back straightaway, you end up losing quite a bit of time. But you do a great job through that big right-hander there, keeping your momentum up and getting a good run up this hill, and then getting always a good run down this hill right now. Not close enough right now to make a pass, but we're definitely in striking distance to look to the inside of the 475. We do need to get in front of them, because in my opinion, I'm watching this race, and you tend to get, because of I've talked about it so much, it is a momentum class. When you get held up in just the littlest ways and you make little mistakes, it ends up causing quite a bit of a gap between the drivers. And like for instance right here again, we kind of go too wide through that left-hander, we make a little bit of a mistake there, and again we're falling back quite a bit. You do a good job when you're chasing down drivers. When you get behind them, you're gonna get lost in kind of following their line versus the line that is fast. And that seems to be why you tend to lose some time right there. But again, that big right-hander, you do a great job getting through there, and you always make a lot of that time right back up. again, we're not close enough in this hairpin. Every time, right here, would have been a good spot to make that pass early in the race. And that's why I talked about it earlier. In those opening laps, you want to make those passes because you never know when that opportunity is going to present itself again. And right now, because you didn't make that pass in the opening lap, then it took, another lap and you kind of made a desperation pass a little bit later. And then because of that pass, you ended up losing 3 spots. And now we're in a position where we shouldn't have been the whole time. And we have the speed to be 2 or 3 positions ahead of this. And instead of just making that one pass early on, a very easy pass, you decided to work with the driver, which is all right, but it ended up hurting you longer and in the long run. So my general rule of thumb is if you're inside, the top 3, that's a position where you can kind of take it easy and relax on those opening laps. But if you're outside of the top 3, if you're 5th or 6th, you need to get going forward and you need to start making some passes. And unfortunately, we never really get a great run on this driver in a part that is not in a passing zone. We never get great runs where we're in a passing zone. Right there, you had a good run off the corner, but you kind of got into it a little bit too fast, ran into the 475. Drivers in front of you are starting to race a little bit. And again, we make that same mistake every single lap where we miss that curve. And that just shoots us a little bit wide, and then we end up not getting a great run down this back straightaway, and we lose about like 3 or 4 tenths right there, and that just hurts our momentum. And now we're not really close enough. Even though we're gaining a lot of that time back up in this section where you're really, really fast, we're not close enough to make a pass going down the hill again. And so, yeah, you got to make those passes early because it definitely makes you pay at the end of the race if you're not making those passes and moving forward, especially in a class like this where it is all about momentum and keeping your pace up. If you're not going forward, you're going to be going backwards. Right here, we get a nice lucky break. The 475 kind of knocks the driver out of the way, ruins his momentum, and then we're going to get by him going into this first corner. So that was a good play on your end there, being very aware of the situation and staying out of trouble. And what ends up happening, right now you're pretty fast. I mean, I'm watching this, and this driver in front of you, it only takes like 2 laps to close back up to him. We're still making that mistake in the second corner there, but it only takes like 2 or 3 laps to catch up to this driver in front of you. You have a lot of pace, and so at this point, I'm looking at this and going, man, I really wish we would have made that pass earlier in the race because that definitely would have helped us out quite a bit, and we might have been able to challenge, that top 4 drivers there. Obviously, they're a little bit too far ahead. Didn't really know where their pace was, but we're catching the 417 right now, and as the laps wind down, we actually start closing on the driver in front of him as well. And so for the rest of this little bit here, he goes a few more laps. Great job on the brakes right there, but we just kind of run behind the 417. And so I'm going to kind of skip to where the rest of the racing action happens. But overall, the big thing that we need to work on is making passes early in the race, trying to be a little bit more aggressive early in the race, and then, trying to keep our momentum going forward, and so that we're just constantly, being the progressor in a lot of these situations instead of waiting for stuff to kind of unfold and happen for us. So now you caught the 417, and then we get into the hairpin here, and you do tend to brake a little bit later there, and I think that's why you ended up giving the driver a little bit of a nudge. Obviously, that's not the best kind of racing. You give the position back, he kind of waves his finger at you right there. But if my opinion is if you can always get to a driver's bumper like that, and you can move a driver out of the way, it means you definitely can outbrake them in the braking zone and get to their inside. And so that's something that if you feel like you're running over a driver in the braking zone a lot of the time, look to the inside, because at some point you're going to be able to get that pass done. And especially down into this hairpin, there's a lot of times there that you might not be the closest, but you definitely could try a little bit of a late pass, and I'm pretty sure it would stick. You have a lot of speed right now that you come out of that corner, especially you run wide. There's not a big opportunity for them to over under you, considering you'll have the inside going into the next corner. And so I just think at that moment, it's definitely a good thing just to kind of maybe try something, because obviously you are right now one of the faster drivers, it looks like, and you obviously are closing on that driver in front of you, in front of the 417 as well. So definitely making some smarter decisions early in the race would have definitely helped you out at the end of this run here. Now we're heading down into this back hairpin again, and again we're close enough. You get a good run right here that you could definitely pull to the inside and make a pass, especially he runs wide off the corner and you kind of follow him through with that. But in those moments where you're getting a run and you're, even before the braking zone, you're on a driver's bumper, you have to go to the inside. And I know probably, you're probably thinking to try and push together and catch this driver in front of you, but it looks like right now there's 2 laps to go. You kind of give him the bumper again there, trying to get him a little bit wide. He doesn't fall for it. Right here, you're getting a good run again. You look to the inside. Not a lot going on right there. This isn't really a great passing zone, so you're kind of stuck just, waiting around to make some moves. Obviously, you're going to look down into the hairpin. If I'm in your position, I'm looking down into the hairpin. That's a spot that I'm really strong. He hasn't really defended there much anyways. Didn't get the best run off that corner, but we're still getting a good run up to him. But again, we don't make the pass right there, and this is where we fall under attack from a driver behind us. And because of that, we lose another position. And and now we finish 1 position back than where we were the previous lap. But the thing of it is that if you were to have made those passes earlier, if you were to advance your position a little bit earlier, you probably wouldn't have been in these positions. There's a rule in racing, and it's pass or be passed. And if you're not passing, you're not moving forward, you're going to be going backwards. And in this instance, you see that pretty clearly. When you didn't make the pass on the driver, that 417 those last couple laps, you ended up losing quite a bit of spots because those drivers behind you got tired of waiting on you to make the decision, and they decided to pull the trigger. And that's pretty much what happened in the beginning of the race too. When you didn't make that pass on the driver in that opening lap, what happened was the other drivers caught up and they decided that it was their turn to make the pass instead. And so they did that, and that's basically why you ended up falling back. I definitely think you would have been a nice top 5, top 4 contender if you would have made a few different passes in the beginning and maybe cleaned up a couple of those mistakes you made in turn number 2. But overall, good race, man. Really happy to see you guys, engaging with this channel and sending me this video. I'm really hoping to do some more stuff like this and to help some of you drivers out there as well. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Hopefully you guys will see your video on here one day as well. Make sure to follow me on my Instagram, my Facebook, and my TikTok. I post a lot of awesome racing content on there as well, so make sure to follow those as well. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.